Good morning and welcome to today's edition of AAU Talks from the AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. Today we'll be looking at the interactions of national values, concepts, beliefs, and cultures in higher education within internationalization. And my name is Awaah, your host. And when we come back, I'll be introducing my guest. Thank you.
International University, you are the torch that lights above. In you we see a future bright, and by you the nation gaineth from services pure. The emblem that you chose is the message, unique in great and story the giants. With such a height of success is true, but with such a size not task is surmountable. Equipped with knowledge, down to us, we go out of your gates with dignity. May your vision bright and bold.
Thank you and welcome back to the AAU TV. To discuss the topic today, E. Williams, Irvine. Prof, do you want to tell us a bit about your university?
Yes, thank you for asking. Concordia University, Irvine is located in Southern California. We have approximately a little over 4,000 students in our graduate and undergraduate programs. At our university, you can earn bachelor's, master's, MBA, as well as educational doctorate or EDD. We take pride in having 5 schools within the university. We have the School of Education, School of Arts and Sciences, School of Business, School of Professional Studies, and School of Theology, or Christ College, which is what we were founded. We are a faith-based university. However, we encourage all students from all walks of life to join us, to come study with us and learn with us. And we are proud to say we have all walks of life there. So those that are faith, as well as those that may not have, that don't have faith, as we say. We have, one of the things that's most important to me is our tagline, and that's more than a tagline, and that's we are committed to developing wise, honorable, and cultivated citizens of the world. And so thank you for asking.
Oh, that's very great. Now, within the context of higher education, what does internationalization mean to you?
Thank you for asking. In order to make, the world is global. As you know, internationalization and globalization are twins. And when you're talking about organizations and businesses for when you graduate, making the world a better place, everything is interrelated. So there's no such thing that's just America or just Ghana or just any country, because just look at you and I. We're from different walks of life, yet we share a lot of similar goals. So when you talk about higher education, we can no longer, nor should we, look at just one country. It's such an interconnectedness. Internationalization speaks to that. What makes our campus rich is when we have students from other parts, other walks of life, other countries, other cultures, other nationalities, other beliefs, other orientations. That's what makes us great. That's what makes any university like that. So to me, I would start off, Mr. Awaah, with saying that in order for us to create wise, honorable, and cultivated citizens of the world, we must and all should embrace those from outside of the boundaries of certainly my country.
How do you think, from your university's perspective, how have different cultures helped shape internationalization?
That is a very good question, and I can answer that question from a couple of perspectives. As you know, I have the privilege to work on our executive team as a vice president, but I'm also in the classroom. I'm a professor, a full professor, as we say. And I mention that only to say I have students that I get to touch all the time from different countries, the conversations, the small group discussions. Our students, American students who may not have traveled outside the U.S., they get a chance to learn what's going on. We have a section of our campus called the Global Village, which is where a lot of our international students and domestic students get a chance to exchange. They go to our domestic students invite international students to their home. Coincidentally, for example, this week is Thanksgiving. Like that, actually today is Thanksgiving. It's Thursday, correct? I'm still in the right time zone. And we have a lot of our students that will have invited international students to their home to see. So as we really look at fostering a world, a workplace, a marketplace that is inclusive of everyone, you start in safe places to talk are in classrooms, whether they're in a kindergarten through 12th grade, as we say in the U.S., or at a university level. And I think at the university level, which is higher ed, I mean, we're the linchpin between, the next generations.
So is it the case that you think internationalization is beneficial to the global economy?
Absolutely. The internationalization is not only beneficial, it's essential, I would say. Prior to being at Concordia, and I've been there a little over 19 years, I spent about 20 years in industry, with most of that time in a human resources capacity in our entertainment industry there in Southern California. And I can tell you that today I can remain friends with some of the industry of human resource and hiring professionals. And they look to students, whether they're our graduates, American graduates, or graduates of other countries, what have you done outside of your space? So, being able to say that, we can develop students that have that global perspective, that has actually lived a global perspective, that's what industry is looking for. And the reason why I mention industry is that's the future. Many people go for higher education, for careers, for jobs, and they'll make the world a better place. You can't just think myopically. You can't think just one place, because it doesn't work. If you and I look at what we have on today, even though you have on cultural attire and I have on considered Western attire, many more than U.S. hands turn, I got on my mic, touch this, as well as whether it's the colors, the dyes, the threads, that what you have on, we touch more than Ghana. So you can't really have anything today that you can't think that doesn't have an intercultural, cross-cultural influence.
Well, great. I think I would get a bit more specific on the issue of what globalization offers to African students.
Okay.
In the context of higher education.
Okay.
So in the context of internationalization, what does it have for students of the African extract?
Okay, thank you for asking. I just, a couple of days ago, I just arrived from Ethiopia, where I spent a few days there, and I've actually have had a trip there before. And we were meeting with some potential doctoral students, and something very prophetic came out of that. These are deans at the dean level, very well, academic, master's level type executives at one of the universities there, that are looking to go into our educational doctorate program, because they said to us, in order for us to better Ethiopia, in order for us to better our students, we need to have a leadership area. We want to expand on research, which is what the doctoral degree gives for you. And so they're really looking at a country that's just coming out of a different type of a democracy, or no democracy actually, and a range of things. So in order for the Ethiopian citizen, the Ethiopian youth, the Ethiopian adulthood to advance, they recognize that they need educational doctors. They need this. And I can only imagine, having spent time in other African countries, that that's true elsewhere. It's true in the U.S., the United States as well. So to specifically address, why I think it's critical for the African university, or the African student, is because Africa is the new Africa. You're the new place where to go. And so, many years ago, we looked to Asia, whether it was China or India or places. Africa is it's emerging. And I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. So you need to be prepared. There are things that you can learn from a U.S. system. There are things you can learn from a European system that will make all of us in the world, a much better place. So you can't just look inside Africa just for educational, for internationalization, nor can the U.S. student look just inside the U.S. for education.
Okay. So still on students, from your experience from Concordia University and other jurisdictions that you perhaps have worked within, what are some of the challenges that inhibit the growth and development of students from other jurisdictions in the United States of America or wherever you've ever worked around?
Cross mobility is huge. And what I mean by that is just getting through the visa system, the immigration system, the cost system, the differences in currencies. These are very real questions that began to set the hard parameters for an individual to decide or be able to have access. For example, in the United States as well as in Europe, blended learning and e-learning, online classes is huge. They've now figured out how to make using technology, and so the rigor, the academic rigor, the respect level for these programs are at an all-time high. And if you don't have, the band access, if you don't have access of the web and the internet to be able to keep up with that is a big deteriorator. It's going to be a very big negative. The price, even if universities can do tuition exchanges or something where they can get the tuition piece worked out, which is not always, but just in case, the housing, which are hard copies. Now, I happen to live in Southern California, which has a little higher, housing costs in some places in the United States, but and we understand that. So what do you do? What do you do? No university can, no place that I'm aware of, I shouldn't make that as a fact, can say, okay, we're going to open up and come free. Come live and study with us free. That's not really what is being asked for, but it's a reality. Then we talked about, briefly I mentioned to you before we met today about the TOEFL scores, or the IELTS, I think, which is the testing that we do for language proficiency. And English language proficiency exams, some people have test anxiety, for example, so they may or may not make the score on the tests, yet you can sit down and have conversations or read, and maybe a person would be eligible. So that's a real barrier and a challenge. So once again, just getting into a U.S. institution is from just the immigration issues can be one setback that we wish we could. I wish I had a magic wand and that I could change it.
You mentioned finance as one of the key challenges pertaining to internationalization, especially from countries that are considered not very endowed, going into the endowed countries to study. What opportunities, what funding opportunities exist for persons who are not able to finance their quest for higher education in other jurisdictions apart from theirs?
Well, I don't profess to be an expert on this, but I can share with you what I do know, and then I'll be more than happy to give you some maybe links and some to websites that I'm familiar with and may know. There are certainly universities give scholarships, no question, like that. They're competitive as well, but universities do that. The United States, for example, also has grants and scholarships available to international students depending on the area they're going into and what they're doing. So that certainly happens. Then as I understand it, because I also work closely with Namibia, like that, and Namibia as a country, and having even worked within their president of the country as well as their ambassadors, and they have actual, because education is #1 priority, and so they're saying, what can we do? So they have put certain funds around certain areas to help their students, help their citizens be able to maybe study as it makes sense. So I know opportunities are out there. So I'm hoping that anyone that might be listening or sharing this, don't look at just your own purse and say, well, I can't afford it, so therefore I can't go, and you settle for something. If you have passion about what you want to do, and it's going to help the world, not just your country, not just your region, not just Africa, then look for these opportunities, like that, and because they are out there. Like I said, it's competitive, but they are out there.
All right. So I think we've talked a bit more on the concept of internationalization. I want us to tie it now more to culture.
Okay.
And the values
All right.
of individuals across the world. What is it about cultural values, cultural differences, that makes internationalization worth pursuing?
Okay. So some of the things from a cultural, as you know, my definition of culture as a practicing, communication cultural anthropologist is culture is beliefs, values, and attitudes, plus behaviors shared by a group over generations. So in order for something to be considered cultural, it's deep. It's learned, as you know, and things that are learned can be added. It's dynamic, and so just to speak for the moment to make sure I'm understanding culture as you're using the word. So the first thing is, where does education sit within your family?
Okay.
Within my family and within many American families, I certainly wouldn't say all, that would be a stereotype, education is at the top. Education is the way out of whatever areas that if you're in a lower income or lower area as a minority, in the United States of America, I was taught that, Cheryl, education is the way for you to better, not only yourself, your family, and your world, to do that. And so by all means, education. So when you graduate, that's what you're going to do. So that's one. Where does your culture, where does your family put education in that? Some cultures, having spent some time in India, now it's much better because gender, which is very popular. So now women are being encouraged, to go in not only to college but into advanced degrees. But some areas, and even areas of Africa that I'm studying, women are pretty much go through maybe an 8th grade equivalent, a United States 8th grade equivalent, and not really expanded because women roles, gender roles, defined differently. But it's changing, and I see it's changing, and I'm optimistic that it is. Likewise, what areas do you go in? Men, from a cultural perspective, have been traditionally gone more in the sciences and technology, and women have gone more into the arts and sciences or some of the vocations. It is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but we don't want gender to be that definition of what you choose to do. And then some things, so then once you get on campus, here's a cultural difference that I can tell you from a first-hand experience. How assertive, interactive, aggressive might you be with your professor? I have some students that are international as well as American, so it's not just an international student, that will raise their hand, address questions, be in discussion, and they're very interactive. They'll disagree with the professor for the sake of, conversation, which is good. But some won't, because you don't disagree with hierarchy. Hierarchy is huge. So you're much more passive in taking copious notes. And as a professor in intercultural and international communications, I'm wanting you to engage and get into conversation. That's how I know you're learning. So I have to be mindful as a professor that I can't read one person's behaviors that they're not as good as or as interested in as someone else that might be more willing to speak up. A second one, and then I'll turn it over. It's a tiny bit of a negative, like that, but it's a reality, is what is plagiarism? What is cheating? And that's huge. In the United States, as well as in many other, certainly in the Western countries, a lot of them, if you're going to quote something from a book, if you're going to take information from another previously published thing, then you cite it. And we happen to use different styles in the United States. Maybe perhaps you've heard of the APA or MLA. I'm using the initial Chicago style, but you cite it. I've had students that have turned in papers, and I know that they want their words. And so it looks on its face as clear cheating or clear plagiarism. But then I understand, and I actually had this by a student I was teaching here, that said, no, but once information is out in the free world, how can you say that knowledge is someone's once they've put it out there? So it's not cheating, it's actually, I'm just using what I know and available. They don't have a negative, deceitful mindset. So that's very different, about being mindful that if you're coming from a culture where that hasn't been something taught to you from early on, and now you land in a U.S. institution, and you not only will flunk a class, but it's grounds for dismissal from a university. And as an international student, if you flunk a semester, you may or may not have your immigration status, as a student. It could be revoked. It could be. So it's a lot that can go on there.
Well, I do understand also that internationalization of higher education brings a lot of funding, brings a lot of investment, brings a lot of opportunity to the recipient countries. So for instance, within our jurisdiction, the understanding is that a lot more Africans study elsewhere out of Africa. That means creating more jobs for those jurisdictions because we will pay fees, would engage in a number of issues that bring economic benefits to those countries or the destinations that we travel to. So it's a two-way thing. They make some level of money, we get knowledge to be able to come and impact our continent. Now, I'm beginning to look at it from this perspective. What does Africa need to do to attract students and faculty elsewhere to want to come to Africa to study or to lecture in our universities?
You know, this is a personal opinion, but I believe it's an informed opinion. Africa, by many, is viewed as a country, not as a continent.
Okay.
So media images, what many Americans define or think of when you say Africa, is not the holistic Africa that I certainly know, that I've had truly the pleasure for over the 20-some years I've been traveling back and forth. And so a lot of it, I believe, is going to be good old-fashioned advertising, marketing, continuing to come to conferences that are hosted in the United States so we know who is Africa. Because once I sit down and talk to students that come to my office on 101 and they ask me about my work in Africa, they all want to go to Africa. Many want to go to Africa. They want to do study abroads in Africa. They want to do cultural and experience programs in Africa. So you kind of peel back that curtain that you know, it's not just war, it's not just all the things and plague and all these unfortunate negative things that hit. So I think a more accurate lens to what Africa really is. I mean, the incredible research, the beauty of your culture, the traditions, the rituals, the tribal communities. I mean, those are lessons for the world, but then the story is told. Perhaps you've heard the TED Talk by one of your esteemed colleagues, a young lady from Nigeria. It's called The Danger of the Single Story, and I encourage your viewers, if they haven't watched that. And what she says is, if you only see Africa through a single story, you will never know Africa. And so that's a big passion of mine, is that trying to be the voice in my community of the real Africa, or what I've seen.
Good. Now, a lot of times when the concept of internationalization in higher education is mentioned, usually what comes into mind is students wanting to go study abroad. Much as that is good, I also think that faculty, lecturers, there is the need for African faculty to travel abroad, teach in European and American or universities of other jurisdictions, whilst others also come here, impact knowledge directly in African cities. I don't know what you think.
I also share with you that, matter of fact, in all of our memorandums of understandings that we have with some of the African universities, we have faculty exchange included as part of that general conversation. And we're waiting for that to happen. Concordia a couple of years ago was pleasure to be able to host our first faculty from the University of Ghana as a Fulbright scholar that came over, and she was with us for a year. She not only taught classes, she really engaged with the students. She also, we gave her access to our executive council, because one of the things she wanted to learn was, how does your university run? You know, how does a very well managed, very well run university do this? And so she did. We included on everything, and she really just opened up the eyes of about Africa, about Ghana. So yes, it is encouraged to be able to do that. So it's faculty exchange. In addition to that, Mr. Awaah, it's we look at curriculum exchanges. You know, I love to see what other universities or what other professors are teaching in their classrooms, books they're using, activities, exercises. I am more than willing to share mine, if ever. And so it's just a matter of, we need to know each other. You know, we need to realize that it's not a vacuum. I don't teach in a vacuum because my students don't hear me in a vacuum. And I hope, at least I hope I don't teach in a vacuum. Okay.
So basically you're encouraging faculty exchanges.
Absolutely.
Okay. So apart from the issue, you have told us about what Concordia is doing in line with that. and you have told us you had visitations from the University of Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
What are other universities across the world doing to facilitate faculty exchanges? I can tell you a bit about Africa.
Oh, good.
Okay. In Africa, the Association of African Universities, for instance, has what they call the Faculty Fellowship Academics to lecture in collaboration with the Economic Community of West African States or the Swedish International Development Agency. So basically, they get funding, then they send lecturers from one university in Africa to another university in Africa. So experiences can be felt. Okay. So I am thinking beyond what the Association of African Universities is doing within the borders of Africa, how can this be extended to the extent that you've given us one good example where the University of Ghana came to your university? Can it be on a larger scale so that when you meet an Asian lecturer and an African lecturer and somebody from another jurisdiction, your mindset about education, and for that matter, higher education, may not differ so much because you've had some level of experiences in each other's jurisdictions. So apart from the given example that you gave, the MOU between you and the University of Ghana, what other strategies do exist for faculty to have a taste of internationalization?
What I know, and which is what I would like to share, is in addition to teaching exchanges, we would like to be able to do research exchanges on collaborative questions, collaborative areas that countries need information on. We haven't yet been able to do that at a larger level, but we've been able to do it more. We have faculty that, on a personal level, on a professional level, that's been able to do that. We have faculty that have conversations in Thailand and many in China, and here, you know, in Africa, we're looking at that. So it does exist, but it's right now today, as I'm aware of it, it's more on a personal, individual level. But we are all out there. So, you know, we have, 200 some faculty, roughly, I think including kind of the different ranges, that all have their fingers in other places. So I hope more of that happens, and I hope when people are reaching out at the interpersonal level, they can say, okay, I'm from Uganda, I'm from Brazil, I'm from Togo, and I'm looking for how can we make gender better. Mentioning once again, and just being in Ethiopia, I was just walking across campus. It was giving us a detailed campus tour, and I met a young lady that I believe was from Sudan, and her area is gender. And she's saying it's getting much better. Now, as you know, in the U.S., politically, we have the Me Too movement that came out of some of the different areas. She wanted to, and we did, exchange information because she would like to be a part of a larger study on gender. And I said, not only do I do a little bit of that, but I have faculty at my university that's their area. So that exchange is going to happen. I return to the States on the 29th, and I am going to make sure I connect. So that could be that's a research piece where we both are faced with problems. We have challenges. And as one quote says, you're not going to find your answer necessarily where the problem was created. You have to look outside of that. So I don't know if that specifically answers your questions, but I know that in addition to teaching and research, now what from an administration capacity, what the professor from the University of Ghana shared with us, how does your university run? And she can take maybe some of our practices back to her. Now, what would be ideal is we have that same access at one of the universities in Ghana, and actually Wisconsin University is actually where we're getting some really good insight. The founder of that university, Dr. Finn, has been phenomenal with being able to give us a window into how that university is run, and their vice chancellor, side of international relations. We're on time, and they had to open up their doors to us, and they did so graciously, and we were so happy to do that.
No, fine. So I'll get back to you, but it's time for a break. And then when we return, we'll be talking a little more practical about your presence in Ghana in line with the same internationalization drive.
Thank you.
We will be back, viewers.
You may not have heard about us, but we have heard about you. You've been searching for a new kind of university that matches your ambition. Our world-class education is renowned, but there is more to us. Meet the university in Ghana that is transforming Africa. One that is nurturing a new generation of ethical, entrepreneurial leaders. One that offers scholarships thanks to the Massacre Foundation, so that you can be part of our community of students who stand for integrity, discipline, and excellence. There is only one such university, only one, where 100% of graduates receive job offers or graduate school admissions. You may not have heard about us, but we have heard about you. You are Africa's future, and we are Ashesi University College. Together, we can begin to create a new Africa.
Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned to our program. I am here discussing with Professor Cheryl E. Williams of Concordia University, Irvine, United States of America. Prof, we did speak about internationalization and then implications for cultures and values across the world. Now, you told us in your previous discussion that you've been traveling across Africa for some period now. You cited Namibia before we went for the break. Now you are in Ghana. What exactly are you here for?
Right, and thank you for letting me look this up on my phone. My memory is not always the best things, but thank you for asking. So Wisconsin International University has invited us to, myself and my provost, I'm traveling with Dr. Peter Sinkbile, our provost, and we're going to be part of a symposium this afternoon that I encourage anybody that's in the greater Ghana area to come and join us at the university. My specific topic is going to be Responding to Crisis, a communication guide on race, ethnicity, class, and gender in today's workplace and marketplace. So hopefully it's a very timely topic with a how-to connected to it, because as you know, one of the things communication specialists, and I was asked to address undergraduate students as my primary audience, on what skill set that industry is looking for and that is necessary, and that's just one of the skill sets that strong communication professionals can do. My colleague, Dr. Peter Sinkbile, who is Concordia University Provost, is speaking on the economic benefits of the creative arts industry in the education sector. So we're hopefully brought out to there. We have another one of our colleagues that is a working professional. He's not a Concordia University faculty, or at least not yet, but his name is Mr. Ramsey J. Jr., and his topic will be Leadership and the 21st Century Dynamic Investment Management Framework. And Mr. J and Dr. Sinkbile and I was at dinner last night. We're really just exchanging and collaborating how all three of our areas connect to making citizens of Ghana more wise, more honorable, more cultivated, more developed for what we're looking for in the world. So that, in addition, on Saturday we have the pleasure is the Wisconsin their graduation of commencement. So Dr. Sinkbile will be delivering the keynote speech, the commencement address, and I'll be there in my regalia, like that, congratulating and welcoming the graduates as well.
Well, so I think it is, what you are going to talk about would be important to our audience continentally through the AAU TV. I ask, whilst a number of employers, let me rather put it this way, whilst a number of graduates complain that there are no jobs for them, employees or industry also complains that the graduates that we churn out of our universities lack the requisite skills, knowledge, and attitude needed to meet the demands of industry. You would be speaking on skill sets for industry. What exactly should a graduate have to be able to meet the demands of industry? What are the skills?
Okay, thank you. And I feel fairly comfortable asking that, particularly from a more Western point of view, but I believe Ghana is Westernized in many ways. I don't know if it's good or bad or indifferent, but very much so, as well as other countries as well here. Industry today, corporate, are looking for graduates that can write, that can read, that can orally communicate, and that can critically think. Whether you're going into medicine, law, social sciences, literature, theater. And the millennials, as we now are calling this new generation, are so connected sometimes to technology, and this is a little bit of an opinion, because not all, certainly millennials and not all of our younger graduates do this, but some of the things that I see when I'm doing interviewing, when I'm doing my classes, is a disconnect with critical thinking. It sometimes appears that they're almost looking for someone else to give them the answer. And I know I'm talking in pejoratives. I don't mean to stereotype, and please know that I'm certainly aware of that. But I see a lot. I see it overwhelmingly. Matter of fact, a nickname. It's not that I think I'm better than writing. How you do it is you write it. It doesn't come easy, as you know, as a professional yourself. As well as, you know, oral communication. Some people, you know, allow communication anxiety, which is probably what I have now, but to stifle them. But that's learned. These are all learned skills. Now, granted, people have different passions in doing that. One way, Mr. Awaah, to do that is most campuses have something around what they call career services.
Okay.
Maybe named different. I know on our campus it's the career services.
Okay.
And we have a full-time person at the director level, so she's at the management level, whose primary job is to liaise between our graduating or our students for internships even, and the communities. And by the communities, it's businesses, it's profits, for-profit organizations, non-profit organizations, to be able to see what is your entry-level requirements, as well as, you know, some of our students, particularly our MBA students, that may already be fully employed but looking for better, you know, jobs or careers, the reason why they may have done that. She also works with, for when you're looking for areas that's not just entry-level jobs. And it's not just for the U.S. So she also looks for what's available overseas and international, because as we look for students, you know, we look for your graduates, you know, many organizations, many companies in the U.S. would hire African graduates in a heartbeat if they could do, if they bring the skill set to complete the job. Look, the business person just wants to get the job done. They want to do it legally. They don't want to do it ethically. They want to do it ethically, and they want to do it fast. So you come in with writing skill, you come in with speaking skill, you come in with critical thinking skill. Many universities, many businesses can train you on the specifics of what might be happening at that spot, but that you have to come in with that type of personal development.
Well, I do think that almost all of the topics you would be discussing today at Wisconsin International University seem to be thematic areas that are resonating with Africa today.
Oh, good.
Okay. Next week in Nigeria, Africa would be meeting at the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Center to discuss economic benefits of the creative arts industry.
Nice.
And much as I know you are not going to be speaking on this, what do you think are some of the benefits of Africa's creative arts industry?
You know, the creative arts industry, in many times, is what people pay attention to.
Okay.
And as you heard me mention earlier, you know, Africa needs, and I'm speaking of it as a continent, needs to let their story be told accurately through the lens of the African, through the lens of, and if it is someone that's coming over from a different country, they go back and they tell an accurate story. They show accurate visuals. And we do that through song, through theater, through television, through entertainment. I mean, that's a pop culture. That's a popular cultural area that is what people pay attention to. Look, if you can have the best information in the world to share, but if no one pays attention to it, then it's for naught. So our creative arts industry really helps fill in that vacuum for people paying attention. And then from there, they say, oh, I think I want to go do that. I want to go try that. And so that's one of the things that I believe, like that. And Dr. Singbal will be doing a phenomenal job this afternoon talking just about that and connecting that. So we understand how can the creative arts industry be part of your economic win, if I can say.
Okay. You did say Ramsey J would also be talking about leadership. Am I correct?
Yes.
In the context of internationalization of higher education, what do African leaders have to do?
Well, from what I understand, Mr. J will be talking about, and Mr. J, in addition to be a financial guru and a young gentleman, he also is a motivational speaker. And what I mean by that is he really gives you a life skills and a life plan. He's going to help say, here's to get you from step one to step two to step three, and included with the financial piece and how we think. Because oftentimes, and I can speak from the African American in my community, and once again, I don't mean to stereotype and say it's all. It's that, you know, we're very we buy material things. You know, we don't think of saving, we don't think of wealth management, because, you know, sometimes you're just trying to pay the bills and keep food on the table or that. But, you know, we have to get a mindset that it's more than that. So I think not only the African nation, but the world, you know, like this, and it needs to be able to start thinking of that. And he's going to be able to give a blueprint. So regardless of what or where someone's financial state might be today, what can you do? And that's I believe it's going to be. I'm looking forward to hearing him.
Well, I think you have delved into the topic much more than I expected.
Oh, thank
yes,
you.
and I should say that you have you've been a good ambassador of your university,
Thank
Concordia. I don't know if you have some last words for our viewers.
You know, once again, have your passion. There's an old saying that, a Chinese saying that is, if you really love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. And what it means by that, you know, is whatever is dear to you. So I would encourage someone, which is what I tell my own two sons, and they're now doing this, is don't just look for the degree or the area that's the highest paid, because one day you might find yourself in what I call golden handcuffs. So you find yourself making the money, but you're miserable. You're coming to work every day and you're miserable. So find that passion, stick to it, and it'll ring true. It'll be true. It'll make for a great life. I love what I do. I've been doing it for almost 40 years, and I love it every day. I love it as much today as I did many years ago. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Prof, for
Thank
coming
you.
through. Viewers have been speaking with Professor Cheryl Williams of the Concordia University, Irvine, United States of America. Would come your way within the course of the week with another edition of AAU Talk. I have been Fred Awaah, your host. Thank you.